Are you ready to stop playing it safe and shake things up in your life? Do you take care of everyone else but struggle to find time to focus on clarifying what really matters to you? What if I told you I have assembled an incredible, top-notch team to help you reignite your passion and purpose? This isn't coaching or therapy or another self-assessment. The solution to what ails you is an epic coaching experience in Croatia, where we combine amazing adventures in one of the most beautiful places in the world. We give you unfettered access to 3 master coaches to help you uncover solutions to your challenges, and an interactive, immersive connecting experience where you bond with leaders from all over the world in what really matters. If this sounds interesting to you, listen on to how joining me on an epic executive experience in Croatia will literally transform your life. Welcome to the SuperPumped Life podcast, where my mission is to engage, excite, and ignite your super pumped life. I'm your host, Ben Walters, an entrepreneur, pastor, consultant, and life coach. On this podcast, I will not only challenge you to dream big, I will help you take actionable, concrete steps to get from where you're at to where you want to go and start living your super pumped life. I'm joined by, full disclosure, my cousin, Greg Laszakovits, and we are here to tell you about an incredible thing we have put together. It is called the Croatia Epic Executive Experience, and it will change your life. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg to just give you a quick overview or we're cooking up here and why you should care and why you should actually sign up and come to Croatia with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ben, we've been making a great team for a number of years now.
Yes.
Grew up together, basically. They say cousins are your first friends, and I can think of no greater example. So it is great to be working with you on this epic experience that we're planning for executives. In my work, I am a coach and consultant with GDL Insight. And what we do at GDL Insight is we train teams and leaders to accomplish more than they ever imagined. And so that happens with coaching. It happens with all kinds of consulting, whether it's team training, conflict, transformation, businessy kinds of things, and consulting, where we are really willing to get down to brass tacks and figure out how to take organizations to a higher level. So that's what we're really all about. It fits hand in glove with what you and I have been working on with this experience. And so I'm really excited to talk with you about it today.
Yeah. So we are basically going to take people to Croatia for complete transformation at the end of October. And so this idea started kicking around. Greg challenged me to do a 50-mile Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim run 2 years ago. And when he called me about this, just like probably some of the listeners today are saying, who's going to Croatia and why? Like, yeah, cuckoo town. So he said, let's do it. And initially, like many of us, my thought was, I can't do that, or I'm not good enough shape, or that sounds scary. And it was all of those things. And yet it was one of the best experiences of my life. And it pushed me to plan and to be accountable and to execute and to then make changes to my life. And those were all changes for the good. And I think that's the kind of big goal, big thinking mentality that a lot of us kind of slips away from us as we age. Would you say, Greg, that?
Yeah. Well, it's a reminder that we can do hard things. When people would say, when I tell them that I did this, that people would say, why on earth would you do this? Like, what are you thinking? Because it is difficult, but there is a dangerous element to it, right?
Well, people die in the Grand Canyon every
They
year.
do.
Yeah.
They do. And so we were choosing to do something that was a little bit dangerous, but also incredibly rewarding. It put us in an uncomfortable position. And that's where transformation happens, though. You never hear about somebody saying, I had a life-changing experience sitting in my lazy boy at home watching football. Right? It just doesn't happen. Although I won the fantasy football championship this year and beat you in the finals.
Yeah, well,
it was pretty transformational then.
Yeah.
So
Yikes.
when we put ourselves in these difficult moments, when we put ourselves in places of challenge, that's when these transformations happen. And that's what we're doing. We're essentially engineering a way to get ourselves a little bit uncomfortable and have a bunch of learning along with it. Not all just sitting in the classroom at all. Experiential learning, getting out there, doing things that we thought we probably couldn't do, but that we do. And then in that, we can find the transformative experience. And so that's what's really exciting about these trips.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I'm seeing a lot on social media about how, and this talks to Gen X, but it could talk to any particular group who's kind of stuck and stagnant, but people sniveling about our best days are behind us. I've got to come to accept that I'm never going to do meaningful work again and that my kids have moved on. And, it's kind of this pity party, and not to dismiss any of those feelings, but it's a critical juncture, I think, for a lot of people where you have to decide, are you just going to kind of ride it out being mediocre or unengaged or uninspired and blah about your life? Or are you actually going to decide to do something that could kickstart your next chapter and take you to a height you never thought you could get to? And it's a choice. It really is.
Yep.
So
are you going to happen to life, or is life going to happen to you?
That's a heck of a question. And it's so true, because you think about our growth, like we grow so many ways from like our birth, where we're learning everything, up till about, post high school, post college. And then for many, once they get into that career track and start having kids, the growth just sort of gets squashed. And so I think for a lot of folks, it's like, is it time to ramp it back up? And I think if we're honest with ourselves, if you're asking the question, should I be ramping back up? I think you already know the answer. Right. Yeah.
Well, and then I think then the real question is, are you ready to put in the work?
Yeah.
Right. So we were talking about the canyon run. It's not skill. Skill does not get us through the canyon. Right. It's the willingness to put in the work ahead of time and to make the right decisions along the way. And so when
to have the right people around you,
absolutely,
on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're talking about this moment where you can decide whether life is going to happen to you or you're going to happen to life, the next question is, well, what am I willing to do about that? Am I willing to step into that unknown, or do I just want to kind of, again, sit on the lazy boy and let life come at me and ride it out? I think we all know the answer to that question. We all know that we want more in life. I think we all know that we want to live lives that are full of fulfillment, that we want to have positive impact on the people around us. And so this is the kind of experience that will create the environment where people can really hone in on that clarity around what I really am looking for at this next phase in life, no matter how old I am. What is the next phase in life hold for me? What do I really want to be about? Those are the questions that we're going to be asking, and we're not going to be blinking when we ask them, right? Because you and I, we care enough to ask one another and our groups those kinds of questions, because that's where transformation happens.
Yeah. Well, and it's real for us. We wrestle with those very questions every day in our lives. Is my career, my business going in the right direction? And does it still spark me? Do I get out of bed excited? And my relationships, whether that's a romantic relationships or relationships in families or my friend circle, are those still fulfilling? Are those still feeding me? Or is something missing? Is there more out there? And I think we're wrestling with all those things. So to have people around, I want to go back to talking about the Grand Canyon. And I can remember we were at, I think, mile 34, and I was gassed. I had more than hit the wall. We'd, I think, done about, 10,000 feet of elevation. We'd been going since, 5 a.m. by headlamp, and I was just gassed. And so I sprawl out on this picnic table, and I was chafing, and I basically stripped down to just my very small, short running shorts. And I can remember these Japanese tourists taking pictures like of the weird half naked guy. But
is this normal? Is this what they do in the United States?
This is the Grand Canyon. And but I remember the fact that Chris kind of gave me our third runner on this adventure, gave me a real kind of motivational kick in the butt. And then you were kind enough, even though you also gave me a hard time, to fill my water and do some niceties. So it sounds funny, so that I didn't have to walk 20 feet to the water tap to get all my stuff rehydrated. And just by the two of you accompanying me and kind of helping me along, both with motivation, with support, and with some just simple kindnesses, I was able to complete those last 16 miles, which allowed me to finish the 50-mile epic rim to rim to rim run versus, hey, I did a good job and I got to 34 miles, but I couldn't quite get over the hump. And I see a lot of people, and maybe it's a metaphor, but a lot of people get to a good level and a level they should be proud of, but they want to get to just that next level to find that ultimate satisfaction. And a lot of them quit at that point. A lot of them jump back on the bus, head back to the hotel because they're isolated. And so I think bringing a community together around that common goal is really a key to this whole thing. So,
yeah, absolutely. You know, it was we kind of did a little good cop, bad cop on you there at that moment.
Yeah, you did. Double T.
It was really interesting to see how Chris, when you look back, it was kind of genius how he motivated you. I won't get into specifics, but he knew just the buttons to push.
Yes, he did.
He knew just the buttons to push, and he pushed them. And so that to have a team around you who really knows you and gets to know you, which again is why that's why we're not doing a 24-hour retreat, right? We're not doing a 48-hour step away from life as usual. We're providing this week-long experience where you're really going to have the opportunity to get to know the people who are on this adventure with you. We as coaches are going to have the opportunity to get to know you. So again, in the best way possible, we know the buttons to push so that we can really help you get to that next level. And that's the beauty of these trips. You and I were talking earlier, aside from the podcast, about some of the places we've been around the world and these trips that we've done. You know, we've done these things in all across the U.S., the Caribbean, South America, East Africa, Europe. We've done this all over the world with groups, and we see the power of getting a group of people in a situation that's a little bit different, this power of travel, and how people can come together and the kinds of breakthroughs you can have. It's remarkable.
Yeah. Well, the neuroscience of the brain is that when you travel, you're putting the brain on kind of hyper mode. And so therefore you have increased clarity, increased creativity, just all the things are firing as one. So that's how you get those breakthroughs, different than even going to a big conference on a particular topic or, you know, a one-day retreat, that type of thing. You mentioned pushing buttons, because I think the two-way street of this epic executive experience is that by the end of that experience, we're going to know you as a participant and a fellow journeyer on a level that we can push the right buttons with you, because we understand how you tick. But on the other hand, you also have this unfettered access to us. I don't want to say 24/7 on the trip. You and I do need to sleep a little bit, but often those breakthroughs come if, you know, I get up for a run and I say, anybody want to go for a run? And then you're like, yeah, I want to go for a run this morning. And we start just diving into the stuff you're struggling with and the messiness. Or, you know, we're in a cafe having a chocolate croissant and an espresso, and we're just talking shop, looking out over the Adriatic. I mean, those are where you have those breakthroughs. And I think you being able to access as a participant coaching and consulting and collaboration just round the clock it's a game changer. It really is.
Well, first of all, those 2 years of French really paid off. I got to tell you that.
I really did.
Second of all, I'm sure this happens with you too, right? Sometimes you have a traditional coaching session with a client, and you do your hour, and you're done, and then you get an email 20 minutes later that says, I forgot to mention this, right? The client calls you or sends you a text and says, I wish, doggone it, this just dawned on me, kind of thing. And so this kind of experience, to your point, this kind of experience really creates those moments where, if you think about it 20 years later, you turn to us and you say, hey, I just thought of this. And then we're able to dig in and go deeper. And that's worth a lot.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So I was thinking a little bit too about, for many of us, I was thinking in my own life, I've sent my kids on 5 different study abroad experiences. I think Italy, England, Prague, South Africa, and Japan. And how oftentimes when I get the bill for that as a parent and I'm paying that cost, it's $12,000, $15,000, whatever that number is, plus the airfare. And then you've got to provide food for the kid. And all of a sudden you're 20 grand in, right? And you think, is this worth it? But when I think back to each of my 3 kids and that college experience, the melding of classroom learning and curriculum with the hyper active brain on a travel experience in somewhere new and culturally vibrant, all 3 of them would say those were the most transformative times of my 4 years in school. And as a parent, I see in each of them the most growth during those experiences. And so even though it's painful to write the check or, give the school the deposit for that, it really is probably the most impactful investment I can make in my children. And so I think of this as an opportunity for, if you will, grown-ups to invest in themselves to achieve those transformations and that growth and that learning. And I think those who do are going to say, that was the best darn week and the best darn $9,000 I ever spent. Worth every penny. Wouldn't you agree? You've written checks for daughter to go to Italy. And I mean,
absolutely. Yeah. And maybe it's just your wisdom on sharing that with me, is when we write those, I write them happily, right? Because now this is going to be impactful. This is going to, this might be the best $15,000-$20,000 I spend in their life, maybe even, right? Or at least in their college experience. So some of that is just how we think about it, right? So absolutely. And also, I think this is a good time to mention that we guarantee this trip, right? We are so confident in what we've put together. We are so confident and we're so confident just in the power of what it's like when we get, again, just a little bit uncomfortable and we have these opportunities for some learning together and for a lot of experience together. When you create that environment, we are so confident in that we'll sit down. If you say this trip was a flop, it was the worst money I ever spent, I'll get my checkbook out right now and I'll write you a check. I mean, that's how confident we are in this.
Yeah. But nobody's going to say that. I mean, this is,
of course, which is why we're so confident.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. We know how this all works and how this is going to go down. So yeah, I agree with that. What other thoughts do you have today as someone who maybe is thinking about this and isn't sure?
Yeah. Well, so I was thinking, like we said, we go back a ways, and one of the trips that we took was to this very country we're going to now. We flew into Athens, we traveled through the Balkans all the way up to Budapest and then back down through and learned some interesting realities about travel through Albania, which is there is no travel through Albania. But created an interesting and great detour. But also remember, and this is something because we're looking at 30 years later now, right? All these years later, I still remember one of the breakthroughs I had on that trip that is still impacting my life, which was just this notion of we all, you and I were both done with our master's level schooling.
Yep.
And we were looking toward what comes next in life. And you have those moments of self-doubt. You have those moments of, what am I going to do? What do I really have to offer? And we sort of came up with this notion of, and it was really easy for us to look at our faults in those moments. I can't do this, and I'm no good at that. But one of the things that we realized, and it has become a mantra for me in the years since, which was we all have our blessings and our curses, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
We all have those things that we excel at and those things that we're not so good at.
Yeah.
And I think we realized in that trip, what we realize is that we all have those things. And so we can work to improve the places we're not good. But sometimes those places, I think the way I said it to you a little earlier was, those kind of rough edges actually become the toeholds. If you think about climbing, a wall, those actually become the toeholds that get you to the next level. And so rather than be defeatist about it, rather than think I'm no good at it or whatever, and we're gonna dig deep to find those places where those rough edges might be just the toehold you need to lift you higher than before.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Yeah. Well, I am excited to embark upon this with you and the many listeners who are going to join us on the trip. So limited spots are available. So go to either superpumped.com or gdlinsight.com. You can find more information about us. You can find more information about the trip. And we look forward to the next adventure. Any closing words you have, Greg?
Well, just a note that at our websites, you can schedule a free 30-minute consult with us. So you just go in there, you find our availability that matches with your availability. If you want to learn more about whether this is the right thing for you, we would love to sit down and have a quick Zoom or phone call to see what questions you have. And if this will scratch your itch, because we think it will.
Yep, we definitely do. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining me today on the Super Pumped Life podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, I have 2 really quick next steps for you. First, subscribe or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube so you don't miss future shows. And second, jump on over to superpumped.com, where there are all kinds of great tips and tools for you to launch your Super Pumped life. Keep well, and I'll see you next time.